Macon County coroner says 26-year-old Alexandra Wilson was killed.
It happened near Summit Avenue and Hunt Street Saturday evening. WCI3's Peter Hansen live in our newsroom now. Peter, we're learning new details from the police department today as well.
Brandon, that's right. Lieutenant Adam Yarhouse tells me the shooter, 25-year-old Christian Luthy, and Wilson were in a relationship. I asked him what Luthy was doing when police say he accidentally shot his girlfriend. He tells me the department isn't ready to release those details just yet.
Somewhere in Decatur, Illinois, a father named Ricky Wilson got the worst phone call of his life on Valentine's Day. His oldest daughter, Alexandra, was gone, 26 years old. Shot inside her own home, by her own boyfriend, and the thing that's going to stay with you throughout this entire story, the thing that just won't sit right, is that the boyfriend was the one who made the call. Let me tell you something. Some stories just don't leave you, and this is one of them. When the clock strikes midnight, the truth comes out. I'm 12 a.m. crime. And every single day I bring you real cases of domestic violence that turn deadly. The stories the system tried to bury. The victims who deserve justice. If you're about that raw, unfiltered truth, hit subscribe. New case drops every day at midnight. Don't sleep on justice. This is 12 a.m. crime. Alexandra Wilson was 26 years old, living in Decatur, Illinois. A small city in Macon County where everybody eventually knows everybody. She was Ricky Wilson's oldest daughter, the firstborn, the one who, in a lot of families, carries a kind of quiet weight that younger siblings never fully understand. She was young, she had her whole life ahead of her, and by all accounts, she was in a relationship with a 25-year-old man named Christian Luthy. Now, we don't know the full length of their relationship. We don't know how they met, how long things had been going, or what their dynamic looked like day to day. What the sources give us is this. They were a couple. They lived together, or at least spent enough time together to be in the same house on Valentine's evening, in what police would later describe as a gaming room. Just the two of them, sitting together. Anyways, let's talk about Christian Luthy for a second, because the details surrounding him are what make this story so hard to digest. He was 25. He owned, or at least had access to, an AR-15 style rifle. And according to court documents, he had been doing some kind of work on that rifle that same evening. Like, on Valentine's Day, while his girlfriend was sitting right there with him, moving on. Because we need to get into what happened next. And I need you to really pay attention here because the details matter. February 14th, 2026. It's a Saturday. It's Valentine's Day. The time is somewhere around late afternoon, moving into evening. Alexandra and Christian are together in the gaming room of their residence on North Summit Avenue. And Christian, at some point during that evening, has an AR-15 style rifle in his hands. He had been working on it. That's what he told police, tinkering with it, making adjustments or modifications of some kind. Now, here is the part of this story where I need you to stop scrolling, stop whatever you're doing, and really listen. Because according to court documents, not speculation, not rumors, actual court documents, Christian Luthy told police that when he was done working on that rifle, he pointed it at Alexandra and pulled the trigger. Oh, so now he thought it wasn't loaded? That's the explanation? That's what we're working with here? He pointed an AR-15 at the woman sitting next to him on Valentine's Day, pulled the trigger, and the defense was, I didn't think it was loaded. One round. That's all it took. One round hit Alexandra Wilson in the torso. The word that court documents used to describe why he pointed it at her, and I want you to hear this clearly, was jokingly. He jokingly pointed a rifle at his girlfriend and pulled the trigger, like, make it make sense, because I have been sitting with that word for a while now, and it is not making sense to me. There is a reason that gun safety experts will tell you over and over again that you never point a firearm at something you are not prepared to destroy. Never. That is not an advanced rule. That is the first rule, the most basic rule. The rule that exists precisely because I didn't think it was loaded has ended too many lives to count. But hey, let me not get ahead of the story, because what happened in those next few minutes is what this is really about. After that single round hit, Christian Luthy picked up the phone. He called 911. He reported the shooting himself. Officers responded to the residence in the 1700 block of North Summit Avenue, and when they arrived, they found Alexandra Wilson with a gunshot wound to her chest. She was alive when they got there. They transported her to Decatur Memorial Hospital, and that is where, sometime after arriving, Alexandra Wilson took her last breath. 26 years old, Valentine's Day, gone. When the officers arrived at North Summit Avenue that evening, they weren't walking into a scene where someone had fled. Christian Luthy was there. He had called it in himself, and he was present when police showed up. That detail matters, not because it automatically makes him innocent, and not because it automatically makes him guilty, but because it shaped the entire direction of how this investigation opened up. He was taken in for questioning, and in that questioning room, he laid out his version of events. He had been working on the AR-15. He finished. He pointed it at Alexandra. He pulled the trigger. He thought it wasn't loaded. Now, let me tell you something. The police did not just take that statement, nod their heads, and close the file. Lieutenant Adam Yarhouse, speaking to local news shortly after the arrest, made it very clear that just because someone is in custody does not mean the investigation is over. His exact words were that
just because an arrest has been made in this particular situation doesn't mean the investigation is over. It is still very much active.
So what does that tell us? It tells us that law enforcement was not fully satisfied with what was on the surface. They had a statement, they had a charge, but the work was not done. There were still questions being asked, still people being interviewed, still pieces being put together. And here is the thing that sits heavy. There are details from that night that the police department said they were not yet ready to release publicly, like, when a department tells reporters they aren't ready to share information about what was actually happening in that room, that means there is more to the story than what has been handed to the public. That's not conspiracy. That's just how investigations work. You don't show your hand before you're ready. So we, the public, are left with what the court documents say. And what those documents say is that a 25-year-old man was working on a rifle, pointed it at his girlfriend of his own choosing, pulled the trigger, and called 911 when it went wrong. The single round that struck Alexandra in the torso was not a ricochet. It was not a stray shot. It was a direct result of him pointing that barrel at her and making a decision. Even if he claims that decision was made without the knowledge that the gun was loaded. Moving on, because this is where the story starts to shift from the crime scene to the courtroom pipeline. And there are some details here that are going to make you stop and think.
Deadly shooting in Decatur. Court documents obtained by WAND News show the man accused of shooting and killing 26-year-old Alexandra Wilson told police he jokingly pointed a gun at Wilson and pulled the trigger, believing it was not loaded. Now, the document says that's when one round hit Wilson in the torso. She was taken to Decatur Memorial Hospital, where she later died. That shooting happened Saturday near North Summit Avenue. Police arrested Christian Luthy on a charge of involuntary manslaughter. He's now out on pretrial release. He's due back in court.
Christian Luthy was arrested and charged with involuntary manslaughter. That is the charge. Involuntary manslaughter, which under Illinois law means causing the death of another person through reckless actions. Not intentional, not premeditated, reckless. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you what to feel about that charge, because this channel doesn't do that. What I will tell you is the facts, and you can draw your own conclusions. The facts are these. A man pointed a loaded rifle at a woman. He pulled the trigger. She died. And the charge that came out of that is involuntary manslaughter, not murder, not second-degree murder, not aggravated battery with a firearm resulting in death. Involuntary manslaughter. Oh, so now, let's also talk about what happened after the arrest, because this part really does something to you when you sit with it. Christian Luthy was released. Pre-trial release, meaning he went home. After Alexandra Wilson went to the morgue, he went home. He bonded out and is awaiting his next court appearance. So what? I said what I said. The man who pointed a rifle at his girlfriend on Valentine's Day, pulled the trigger and watched her die, walked out of custody on pre-trial release, and his next court date is in March. Now, pre-trial release is legal. It happens every day in courtrooms across this country. The presumption of innocence is a cornerstone of how the justice system is supposed to work, and I understand that. But the family of Alexandra Wilson, her father Ricky, her uncle who had to post on Facebook to let people know his niece was gone, they don't get pre-trial release from their grief. They don't get to step outside and go home and wait for the next chapter. They are living inside this every single day. The investigation, as of the time of reporting, remained active. Detectives were still gathering information, still talking to people who knew Alexandra and Christian, still building out a picture of everything that led to that moment in the gaming room. Whether additional charges come, whether the story changes as more evidence surfaces, that part of this story is still being written. But hey, what we know right now is enough to make anyone stop and ask serious questions about how we got here. A 26-year-old woman sat down with the person she was in a relationship with on the most romanticized day of the year, and she never got up. Her uncle took to Facebook and kept it simple. His little brother Ricky's oldest daughter, Alex, was killed on Valentine's Day. Just a father's name, a daughter's name, and a date that will follow that family forever. No long announcement, no press statement. Just a man trying to find words for something that does not have any. They set up a GoFundMe because grief does not pause the bills, and they are now planning a funeral for someone they were not supposed to lose yet. There is a broader conversation this case sits inside about firearms, about relationships, about what it means when the person closest to you becomes the most dangerous person in the room. That conversation is worth having. But today, it starts and ends with Alexandra. The investigation is still open. The court date is still coming. And the full truth of what happened in that room on February 14th has not yet been placed before a judge. So this story is not over. Not legally, and not for the people who loved her. But hey, what is already decided is that Alexandra Wilson does not get another Valentine's Day. She was 26 years old. She was Ricky's oldest daughter, and she deserved better than the way her story ended. Rest easy, Alex. If this story moved you, share it. Because the more people know Alexandra's name, the less alone her family feels in this. Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read them. And if you are new here, welcome to 12 a.m. Crime. We tell the stories that deserve to be told. Subscribe and stay close, because we are not done.